Hi everyone, my name is Nicolò. I am the Director of Assyrian Cultural Heritage for ACSYA Inc. I'm also an archaeologist who has worked a bit around the world, and my area of expertise also is Assyrian archaeology, ancient Assyrian. And today I have a special guest from Italy, Nicolò Marchetti, who is a professor of history and cultures at the University of Bologna. He is also an archaeologist who currently leads a team in Iraq, and their aim is to restore and preserve archaeological sites. Most recently, his team has been working extensively in East Nineveh, in particular at the ancient city. And he's here to talk to us a little bit about what his team has been doing and the work that they've been doing in Nineveh. And we'd like to thank him for joining us today. Thank you so much, Nicolò. And can you please let us know a little bit about yourself, your expertise, and the areas that you've worked in?
Well, yes, I'm a Near Eastern archaeologist and I teach at the University of Bologna. I've been practicing archaeology in Jordan in the beginning, then 8 years in Syria with Paolo Mattia Tebla in North Syria. Then I co-directed the Italian-Palestinian excavations at Jericho for 4 years. And since 2003, we are still working in Southeast Turkey. First at Middle and Late Bronze Age sites in the western province of Gaziantep, and then since 2011 at Karkemish and the Euphrates in the eastern province of Gaziantep. We started in Iraq in 2016. We had a 3 years survey project in the south, in the Al-Qadisiyah province, in the Afak district. It was called Cadiz survey. We had 3 seasons, 6 seasons actually in 3 years. Of survey, and then we had some post-season study of materials, and now we are in the process of publishing. Several articles were already published, and a final assessment is on the way. Since 2019, we started at Nineveh out of a request from SBAH, the State Board of Antiquities and Heritage in Baghdad. Of course, Mosul was liberated in the early summer of 2017. And it was clear from the start that the problems were immense. Not only you had the intentional destructions inflicted by Daesh to monuments not only in Nineveh, at Nimrud especially, but also Khorsabad suffered from Peshmerga occupation. Heritage is always the weak side, so it doesn't have legs to run away or voice to speak, and it's always one of the first victims of conflicts. There is almost no side which didn't inflict damage to heritage. It's quite a disaster. So that was, of course, one enormous problem, but at the same time, there was and still is a gigantic problem, which is the old city is not being cleared of its rubble. There are so many reasons for this. Only partly logistical. There is a problem with unexploded devices. The battle was furious, and so much remains under the rubble. You need specialized personnel, but the local community was probably rightly unhappy with a United Nations agency working there, UNMAS. There were problems, serious problems. I mean, they really did mismanagement. And so they were sent away. Since basically nothing is happening and people are desperate for space. They don't know where to rebuild. So we have a huge pressure on the site of Nineveh. Also, Daesh encouraged illegal housing in Nineveh on purpose. And so you have a hunger for space. People don't even know where to dump the debris. If they clear something, where are they going to put the debris? Dumping areas are, I checked myself, I mean, 2 hours away from the city center. So the trucks, how many trucks would you need? It's so easy somehow to dump it inside or against the site, which of course creates an additional problem. It's a huge problem. We calculated like 150 50,000 cubic meters of debris are still there. And so we just couldn't say no to this request of SPAEH, and we started the project. We completed 2 campaigns now, 2019 and 2020. 2020, of course, in the midst of a pandemic. We adopted strict protocols for health safety, and let me tell you, I mean, they worked very well. Both the workers and the team were safe all along. Of course, we had to be strict, but it worked. So I'm saying that even with a pandemic, you are able to carry on your duty, your job in a safe way. The reality is that most international teams didn't come in 2020 to Iraq. This has been, of course, an additional problem for the country, because it needs expert work, it needs cooperation, it needs protection of heritage all along. Anyway, we were lucky enough, we had the chance to work, and of course it's a joint expedition, Iraqi-Italian. This somehow makes things smoother in such a difficult context also. Our Iraqi partners were really not only helpful, because that's more than that, they were not just there to help, we did everything together. It's very heavy, let me tell you. I mean, I witnessed different situations in my work. Mosul is extremely difficult. The whole city needs still to find a balance. I met the administrators. Administrators are open to cooperation, but it's simply not easy to imagine the pressure on heritage if you don't see the city. I mean, the city has, for example, an incredible degree of pollution. It's really unhealthy. Sometimes you barely can breathe. We have to do something for the quality of life of inhabitants. It's just not sustainable the way it is. And the pressure on heritage is directly connected. Visualize with me the site. You have 700 hectares walled by 12 kilometers of city walls. The whole central part of this rectangle, the whole central part is built up by the settlement of Nebi Yunus. North of the Hoser River, which bisects the sites, is called Kuyunjik, and you have Tel Kuyunjik and Kuyunjik, the area around. South of the Hoser, you have Nebi Yunus and Tel Nebi Yunus, where the mosque of the Prophet Jonah lies, where the German team is digging under the bombed ruins of the mosque. And you have the settlement. The settlement, wherever they make a new house, they destroy an Assyrian palace. This I have to be very clear. I visited myself, I'm running into developing areas, and you see on the walls cut by the bulldozers of these big holes before they make the new concrete building, you just see extraordinary architecture cut. You see the fire which destroyed and sealed these palaces, all the rooms with their inventory, pottery, objects, whatever, and the destruction is impossible. Then you say, hey guys, but how is it possible? And we say, well, they've got a permit here. They own the land. They don't own the land to the north or to the south, but in the center, it's a city. It has been registered as such. They have tapu. So if they have tapu, what can you do? Well, I'm not sure. Heritage is universal. At least you should have some investigation, prior investigation. People need to ask a permission to build. Many times they just don't ask and they build. So who is going to, in these developers areas, should be the mayor, but the mayor is very busy, of course. His team is doing so many things. You need water, electricity, whatever. And there is no control, basically. Yeah. Then, of course, some people ask to SPAEH a stamp on their request, a minority. Sometimes they get it, then you should have control, but there are so many sites. And at the same time, as I say, people are desperate for renewal. They just want to develop themselves. It's not just that we don't have money. No, they do have money to do these things, but sometimes they don't have space. And you have families in very difficult conditions. So blocking these works sounds inhuman. It's extremely difficult to find the balance between all these aspects, but you have to. I have never witnessed in my life a similar situation, and it breaks your heart to go around in this area of the city and see this enormous palaces just being destroyed at an impossible pace.
Sounds extremely problematic. The whole area.
It's more than problematic. This is universal heritage. But it's the only reason why we're there. I mean, we are working in Turkey. We had a project, but we cannot ignore this. I mean, my generation will not be the generation who lost Nineveh. I mean, I will do whatever I can. But as I say, 12 kilometers of city walls, they need to be fenced, okay? We need to tell people, this is the limit, at least respect this limit. People are ready to respect fences. I'm fine. I mean, all the people, when you deal with them individually, they're nice people. But it's the global pressure which is impossible to handle. I've got a research budget. I'm fine with that. I don't have the budget for making a 12 kilometers fence. I don't. I mean, who has? State board doesn't have as well. So we need to find a solution here. We need to find support. We need support. I am ready to oversee myself the work for the fencing, so I can be sure it will be done in a proper way, in an economic way. There will be no waste of time, of resources, whatever. But we need to find resources, because the conservation of Nineveh is a priority. At the same time, research is a tool for protection. If you don't have research, people will not see the reason to respect the site. This has been an old strategy in Iraq, and it worked. It worked. So it's not just that we shouldn't do research. No, we have to do research more and more. Actually, when I say research is, in my view, at least, I acknowledge not all my colleagues see the things in the same way. But Adad Gate, for example, Adad Gate was excavated by an Iraqi team from Mosul University in the late 60s and early 70s. The degree of preservation is a miracle. It's 10 meters high, and you still have the arch of mud brick standing. It's amazing. That's just amazing. So the Iraqis in the 70s, they already started in the late 60s. They made a roof in concrete, very invasive, let me tell you. But I mean, it was protecting the monument. And they destroyed this roof, which had 2 stories. An enormous mass of debris was created by this destruction. There was a mound of fallen concrete with slabs weighing 100 tons and more. So in 2019, we hired a crane, a 100-ton crane, the largest in all North Iraq. It was costing $2,000 a day. It was a disaster. Okay, yes. Wow. Anyway, and we removed all the debris. Then we dug the gate survived the destruction. So we reached the Syrian floor, and in many spots, this was not dug before. We gathered an enormous amount of new scientific information, and we realized in 2019, and we extended in 2020, we realized that a roof above the, in metal, it's much lighter, much simpler, but very effective, above the gate. Now, from the Shara ACSYA, from the presidential road separating the district of Mosul University from the ancient site, if you know Mosul, now you see again the Adad Gate. We cleared a section of the city walls. So, and you see the roof. So it's very clear to Mosul people that something is going on, but things are being turned around. This is very important. I mean, for the moral, the city of Mosul, they cleaned debris around, for example, the Shamash Gate, and they put some projectors at night. That was a minuscule intervention, but people loved it. I mean, people loved it.
Yeah, we saw photos of it from Iraqi media outlets, and it looked amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, nothing happened except removing debris.
Just
I mean, I'm fine. People need hope. They need to say something happening. But of course, this is extremely, extremely low profile intervention and still is appreciated. So you can imagine clearing a destruction like the Haddad Gate, which was this enormous mass of debris. And then you see again the gate, you see the roof. I mean, this lifts the morale of the population. It's very important. Also in the Shamash Gate this year, we renewed completely with Toronto University, for example. Toronto University is an example. They were willing to give a hand. So Professor Tim Harrison, he came, he had a couple of weeks with us, and Toronto took care of renewing the fence around Shamash Gate. This is, I mean, it's a small intervention, but it's precious because with our resources, we could do else. As I say, the roof above the Haddad Gate and so on. So we really need the help of everybody who is willing to help support conservation and protection in Nineveh. Because the priorities, the department, the state board, is responsible for all the Nineveh Governorate, which is an enormous governorate. And the inspectors, you say, oh, there are 60 inspectors. Come on, the region is enormous. And you have to protect everything. I mean, so situation is really tough, tough. We are optimistic, we are going on. We believe in cooperation. We believe we can turn the table in Mosul, because what I proposed to the chairman of state board, Dr. Laith Hussein, is that if we are allowed to work as we wish in 2022, so next year, we are able to open a substantial part of the Nineveh Archaeological Park. We already did it in Jericho, at Tilmenoyuk, at Tashlikachitoyuk, at Karkemish in Turkey, and now we are ready to do the fourth or fifth, whatever, archaeological park of my life in Nineveh. We need support. I mean, we need also to clear a lot of hurdles that are still there. But our intention is clear. We want to involve the population into a sustainable plan of economic development. Otherwise, they will never understand fully why we are there. Protect is something, but we also need to talk a language of development, sustainable, plan together. So the site is a heritage, yes, but it's also a resource. It can be, under proper conditions, exploited for the benefit of a population. And this is our idea. It's extremely difficult to keep everything in balance, not to be too much in control, because you need also private entrepreneurship. At the same time, you have to keep things within the planned development, otherwise it becomes unsustainable. So I am confident we can do this, because working together as a team, as a scientific team, as with the authorities, we are really connected in the sense that we try to inform. Now, Mosul, they completed the bid for a new master plan. This is an enormous chance, enormous for us and for the site. They offered us to be involved. We are eager to be involved. We will talk in the next days with the chief urban planner, Mr. Ziad Hamouche. And this, of course, is something we really need to do. So to be part of the decision-making process, because somehow decision-making process, if it's detached from us, well, when we are there especially, it can be very nasty. We can say no. Saying no is unpleasant. It's unpleasant to whoever hears no. So even the city, when they proposed us something that we thought it was not good for the heritage, we just said no. And they were surprised. They said, but look, this is good. I said, no, this is good in your opinion, not in our opinion. Why didn't you ask us before? So now we are trying hard to understand our priorities, which is protection of heritage. At the same time, we are really willing to have sustainable development wherever we think we can. So this is why we're working together. But the situation in Mosul, as I said in the beginning, is extremely, extremely tough. So I am optimistic because this is my character. But let me tell you, I've never witnessed in my whole life such a big challenge.
Wow. Well, we need people like you on board for this, honestly. I'm pretty sure a lot of Assyrian people would be very grateful for the work that you're doing there. You mentioned before ESPA. I know in the past, ESPA's worked a lot with a lot of other government institutions like the Ministry of Interior, Tourism Authority, and they're backed by, I know a decade ago, they were backed by the state fund. And now, especially with COVID, do you think that a lot of that fund is redirected into, you know, the economic situation probably, and that's another reason why it's been a lot more difficult to work with these heritage sites to try and preserve them? Do you think that might be one of the reasons as well?
That's a good question. It's a good question. Well, I don't know the details, of course.
Yeah, of course.
But yes, I see there is a basic lack of funding. Even when we were there, the government had difficulty in paying the salaries to the employees. So I suppose if they have difficulty in paying the salaries, I don't see how they can invest on something else. Even. SBA has equipment, but limited in Mosul. Before Daesh, they used to have their own crane, bulldozers, trucks. Now all of this is gone. They are desperate to have some means, because then they can use it to protect the heritage, to remove the houses. The head of SPAH, Ali Hazem in Mosul, he started removing illegal housing by using machinery from the Belediyeh, from the Mohafez. So, but it's not belonging to the SPAH. So they are not really autonomous. They have to plan these operations with them in advance, limited in scope. So SPAH is doing what it can, of course. And I'm not sure how much resources they have for the protection of sites. Wherever we went, yes, we witnessed there were guardians, like in Nimrud. In Nimrud, there are colleagues and guardians based at the site, and it's perfectly protected. In Khorsabad, I didn't see any, but the site now is not endangered. It's not endangered. The army is having a watch post on the Arsenal Palace, so Area F, whatever it's called, in the southwest of the site, and it's pretty well guarded in that sense. It was greatly damaged, unfortunately, by the Peshmerga when they camped on the Acropolis. That was bad. But now it's okay. Yes, they definitely need a lot of resources which are not there. This is what I'm saying. So this is why we are eager to cooperate on Nineveh, because Nineveh now is the most endangered place. Nimrud and Khorsabad, they are perfect places for research now. They are quiet. There is no imminent danger. Of course, there has been damage. The terrorists of Daesh, they inflicted enormous damages in Nimrud. Now, I'm not criticizing anybody, but there have been so many international organizations involved in the post-war period already, and I cannot understand. I mean, I'm not criticizing. There is so much to do, but so in the areas outside of my jurisdiction of our permit, I am witnessing Assyrian sculptures and inscriptions rotting in the rain. The so-called Mosul alabaster is a stone which is soluble in water. It cannot stay under the rain because it just melts. The relief disappears. And in Nimrud, for some reason, they left all the reliefs into the open sky and under the rain. And there was an essay by the Smithsonian, I think, just after the war. They covered something, but not all. And the same goes in Sennacherib's museum in Tel Kuyunjik. I don't understand. I don't understand. That would be the first priority. I mean, covering these things with nylon would would benefit them, and it would cost nothing at all. And it's not happening, and these reliefs are being damaged. So should I say that everything is ideal? No, I won't say. I won't say. I see a lot happening. I see a lot happening. But it's a fraction of what is needed.
Yeah.
A fraction.
And security wise, is it also like in danger of looting in any way still?
No.
You think, or no?
PAH, in this sense, as PAH, the Iraqi army are safe. No, they well guard. There is no looting. There's no looting. Looting is going on in Iraq, in Dakar. They have problems there. At night, I know of organized teams inflicting damages to sites, but in the north, I don't see this.
And are excavations still taking place? Are there excavations around the site still at all? Or is it purely just restoration, preservation?
In the south, the excavations are pretty well developed. As I say, in 2020, I think, I'm not sure, but I think nobody worked in Iraq except us and maybe something else, but I mean, nobody. In general, there are many projects. There should have been a French project in Khorsabad and an North American one, United States one in Nimrud, but nothing happened, I think. They never had proper excavations until now. We have a German expeditions in Tel Nebi Yunus. They're doing an excellent job under the bombed ruins of the mosque, as I said. But no. There was a United States State Department funded project on the churches of North Iraq and some Yazidi shrines, some Christian and Yazidi heritage, which I think they did some conservation. But I think I'm sure that the project is over now. No, there is insufficient international cooperation. This is clear. We really need more. I mean, I am urging all my colleagues willing to. I mean, they say, but we are busy elsewhere. I say I appreciate, but still, why don't you do something even limited? It would be so needed. In terms of expertise, it's not just a question of budget. You need expertise. You need new ideas and new models of intervention. We have to assist our Iraqi colleagues in this struggle, which is huge.
Yeah. And do you see like a future for like tourism, like in Nineveh, in any of the other sites at all? Anything? I mean, obviously not in the near future, but do you see the possibility of any sort of tourism?
I am talking of opening an archaeological park next year. It means yes, I am totally convinced we have to be back to normal. The country needs to be back to normal. And in 2019, when we were clearing the Haddad Gate, we had the 7 excavation areas, all very interesting, but of course the Haddad Gate was the most impressive one. I told to my colleagues of SPH working with us, look, this will be an enormous touristic attraction. And we said, okay, but where are the tourists? I said, don't worry, they will come. But I was. Then one day the police asked me, are you available this afternoon for touring around some tourists? I said, tourists? He said, well, we were told, yes. I said, I'm very curious. Yes, I'm available. So a bus of elderly British tourists appeared. And they were really tourists. I mean, they were going around. They were coming from Baghdad and they were going back to Baghdad, not even sleeping in Mosul. I mean, the British are the best travelers ever. They are the most hardened ones. Yeah. And I took them around and I took a picture of them and said, look, you are a bit of a future. By the way, I said, I don't understand how you get a touristic visa because as far as I know, there is no touristic visa yet. And they said, no, we are connected. We get touristic visa. I said, good for you. I mean, I'm very, very impressed. Yeah. So even in our first year, we had a glimpse of what the future could be, should be. So yes. At some time, things will become better. But of course, you need also the government policy on this. Tourist visa should be reintroduced. Touristic buses should go through checkpoints in a smooth way. There should be, otherwise it's a big problem to go around in Iraq. There's a lot of checkpoints everywhere.
Yeah.
So there must be a clear policy on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Religious tourism in the south, around, for example, the shrines in Najaf and Karbala, is very well organized. It's very well organized. I suppose if you organize religious tourism, you can also organize cultural tourism. I don't see why this should happen.
A revival, maybe, for the interest in Assyrian archaeological sites and things like that would be amazing, actually. Well, even some of the other heritage, so many. Yeah.
Yes, but the whole world is ready to visit the cradle of civilization, as it's known in the wider public. Of course, now nobody thinks to traveling because of the pandemic, but we are in the midst of is completely canceling tourism everywhere. But this is a global problem. It will be over at some time. We would like to be ready when this happens. We would like to be ready to host tourists in a new Iraq, in a newly devised touristic development, which is badly needed. People need a differentiated sort of income. In Iraq, they are used to think that everything comes from the state. This is impossible. It's not sustainable.
Yes.
You need private resources and development, and this tourism is one of the main avenues to get that.
Definitely, I definitely agree with that. And we've seen it happen in so many different places, but I think Iraq is in desperate need of that, especially for their economy. The people are desperate now, having still been recovering from ISIS and even before that, the wars before that, they're desperate for change. I think the Iraqi people are ready for that. So it would be an incredible thing. I mean, I have to thank you so much for all your work, your team's work at the site. Even what little you're doing, like you said, is greatly appreciated by everyone. It's really truly amazing, and going there during 2019 and 2020, so soon after everything that happened, just to start the work, start the groundwork to grow and clear out all that, like you said, debris, and just change things for the people there, change things for the heritage, and hopefully restore what we can. So thank you so much for that. And I really appreciate your time. I really enjoyed talking to you. I really hope to talk to you again sometime soon. And yeah, I mean, if there's anything that we can do at ACSYA that can help, we'd be more than happy, more than willing to put in.
I would be happy to cooperate with you at any level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much, Nicolò. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye. Bye.
So.
Bye.